It's such a pleasure to be amongst all of you. Very, very good afternoon. This is my second time at the IIM Lucknow Noida campus, and it's always a joy and pleasure to be interacting with such bright minds, especially in person. Last 2.5 saal se, Zoom and Google Meets and Microsoft Teams and whatnot. It's just, you want to go beyond the screen, and this is just such a wonderful opportunity. My job here today is twofold, and that's what I would like to believe. One is, I'd love to walk you through my life, not because I'm in love with my life, it's just been a wonderful life that I've got the opportunity to live. And through that, I will hopefully leave you with a few lessons that genuinely help anybody, and that they've immensely helped me. But more importantly, for all of you who are entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs or are struggling to make your startup work, irrespective of where you are in the evolution of your startup journey, I will leave you with a few things that I have learned being an entrepreneur for the last 12 plus years in the Indian ecosystem that I wish I knew when I started. So this is just my free gift to all of you in the hope that you don't make the same mistakes that I made when I started up. I grew up in Delhi. I originally come from Kashmir, never stayed there. I was 3 years old when we moved to the place, and I had this very audacious plan for myself, which was super clear to me very early on in my life. I had a 3-step plan for my life. Step 1 was I wanted to go to the US for a PhD. I always wanted to become a scientist. I was in love with the sciences. I was really good with the sciences. So armaan tha ki US se jaake PhD karenge. Step 2 was I wanted to become a space scientist. That was what I wanted to specialize in. And as a space scientist from the US, I wanted to join NASA as my place of work. So that was my dream company. As you would all have your dream company, or you would want your own startup to become the dream company. Mine was NASA, and that was where I saw myself. And step number 3 was, as a space scientist at NASA, my ambition was to finally find myself on Mars. One day, hopefully become the first man on Mars, who knows? And this is before Elon Musk has come into the picture. This is before Shah Rukh Khan from the movie Swades has come back to India as a space scientist. So no pollution from Bollywood or entrepreneurship, pop culture, true middle class ambitions to go to the US for a fine education, etc., etc. And I took up 11th sciences. Physics and maths was something that I absolutely loved, was really good at, so that was the natural progression. And then I joined Delhi University, Hindu College, as my Bachelor's of Physics program. How many of you here are from Delhi University? Anyone? Yeah, a few of you are from Delhi University. So you would know, nothing happens at Delhi University. And nothing happened at Delhi University. Those 3 years academically was like a complete eyewash. Nothing happened. I just went to college. Professors were like, "Aage, very good. Khud pad lo. Exam de dena. Hum number de denge. All the best." So it wasn't really what I was expecting, but I was totally okay with that because that wasn't the end goal. My end goal was to go to the US. So this was like just a journey, a milestone in that ultimate path that I had set for myself. And I started applying to the US universities for its PhD programs that I had set out for, and I found myself admitted to the PhD program of astrophysics, which is what I wanted to do at Michigan State University, which was one of the top universities I wanted to go to on a 100% scholarship, which was frankly a relief because that was the only way we could have afforded that education. I come from a very, very humble background, hand-to-mouth existence. In fact, we lived our life in perpetual financial debt. So there was no way that we could have afforded an education in any private institution, least of all go to the US and afford that education. So to get a 100% scholarship was like the best thing that I could have strived for, and I'm so glad I got that. So the next thing I know, as a student trained in the Indian education system, I find myself in the US. And the beautiful thing about the Indian education system is that it tells us when to study, when not to study, how much to study, how much not to study, what not to study, to know exactly what you will write in that 3-hour examination, to know exactly how much you will score after that, and know exactly where you will rank in the class. And surprisingly, nobody else was trained in that education system. So I was totally killing it. I was deploying 18 years of my training in school and college to the hilt. I was top of my class. My professors loved me. My students hated me. Everything that I thought would be happening to me the way that I had designed was happening to me the way that I had designed. Except there was one big problem. There was something that was missing. And the way that I knew that is because if I stood in front of the mirror and I asked myself, are you doing what you thought you should be doing? The answer was yes. But are you feeling how you thought you would be feeling? And that answer was not yes. There was something that I wasn't getting. Like I wasn't springing up off my feet every Monday or every day saying, oh, I will win the day today. I'm living the life that I wanted to. This is exactly how I thought I would be feeling. And I was perplexed because I had done everything that I had set myself out to do. So I began to have these very tough conversations with myself. What's wrong? What could possibly be wrong? And I realized that physics, which is what I was doing, was something that I was good at, but it didn't make me happy. I was doing something in life that I was good at, but it didn't make me happy. And for the first time in my life, it struck me that what you're good at and what makes you happy could be two entirely different things. And that was a shocking revelation for me. Because all my life I had been taught and trained that if you're good at something, you automatically become happy doing that. But that wasn't the case for me, and I was a living example of this, and that was devastating. Because suddenly it derailed everything that I had planned for myself in my life. And I had two choices to make at that point of time. Choice one, continue doing whatever you're doing. And because you're good at this, you will actually get everything that society calls as success. Oh, bangla, gadi, shan, shaukat, you'll get everything because you're good at this. But there's a possibility you may not be happy doing it your entire life. Or option two, if you're not happy doing what you're doing, then go and figure what is it that makes you happy. And I had no idea what that would be. But just the fact that I wasn't happy doing what I was doing was enough for me to be convinced that I would never be the best at it. There was no hope in hell that I could be best at something if I wasn't happy doing it. So I decided to drop out of my PhD and come back to India. And you can imagine how that conversation went with my parents. Because they were like, तुम्हारा दिमाग खराब हो चुका है. 8 साल से तुमने हमारा दिमाग तो खराब कर ही दिया. US, NASA, space, and all of those things, and now you're giving us this random theory. Oh, I'm good with this, but I'm not happy, whatever that means. So they didn't get it, and I can understand why they didn't get it. But I'm so glad I didn't listen to my parents. Not that they were wrong in what they were thinking, but I was just so certain of what I wanted to do. I came back to India at the age of 24, and I have no plan. I have no idea what I should be doing in life. And there's nothing waiting for me. It's not like there's a job waiting for me, or there is a plan waiting for me, or there's some family business waiting for me. I was in absolute chaos. No goal, no target, nothing else. And at that point of time, a lot of my friends were like, hey, you look confused. So why don't you do what most confused people do? Go get an MBA. And I always wanted to crack this joke at a business school. Because you all know it within your heart. And I'd seen so many of my friends go for an MBA with 2 saal ki mehnat, paisa, shiddat, and all of those things. I wasn't sure whether that was the right thing for me or not. And as luck would have it, I come across this rather young school. It's 5 years old. It's an insanely expensive program. But it's a 1-year program. Which is awesome because I wouldn't have to spend 2 years figuring whether this was the right thing for me or not. And the best thing about the program was I would be studying with a bunch of people who had real work experience. Because I had zero idea about the real world. I knew nothing of the real world. I didn't know what sales is, marketing is, finance is, HR is, IT is, strategy is, and all those nice happy things. So for me to spend time with people who had actually done that in real life would be the best learning platform for me. And I'm so glad that I applied to ISB. God bless the person who saw my application and decided I was worth it. And I then joined ISB, and that 1 year just fundamentally changed my life. It changed everything about me. And I think the reason was because while I went to ISB looking for a company and a role and a brand and a salary and a designation and all those nice things that we all look for, I went to ISB looking for myself. Who am I? What am I good at? What am I not good at? What are the things that I should or should not be doing in life? And I needed answers to those questions, which I think I found, and that's what I would leave you all with. I also found out there is this really cool profession called consulting. And consulting is this brilliant job where you get to work on complex business problems with really large companies, with very smart people. You get paid a lot of money, and I was like, this is the best way for me to learn because I know nothing about the world. So I started preparing for consulting jobs, and I got through a consulting firm, and the next thing I know, as a 26-year-old, I'm sitting in the boardrooms of really large companies in front of people that I've seen on the covers of newspapers and magazines, telling them on how they should be running their business. Basis the Excel sheet that I have made, basis my understanding of their business, of which I had no idea until 2 weeks back. And I was like, how does this make sense? I'm 26 years of age. You have worked in this company for longer than I've lived on this planet. This relationship, sir, is not equal. Why aren't you throwing me out? But they weren't throwing me out, and if they weren't throwing me out, I was getting to learn so much that I wasn't complaining one bit. And a ball of a time in consulting, a year and a half passed by, I'm thoroughly enjoying myself. And one fine day, I catch up with a friend of mine from ISB, same batch. And he's like, hey, I started this new website, and I wanted to talk to you about it. I said, sure, what's it called? And he said, it's called secondshadi.com. I was like, is it what I think it is? It's like, yeah man, it's a matrimonial website for remarriages. There's so many people who get married in India, so there are bound to be people who get divorced and widowed, and this is a platform for them to get married again. And I was like, that is such an incredible idea, dude. How did you think about that? And he was like, no, my dad thought about this. So my first reaction in my head was like, I hope uncle and auntie are having a happy marriage. But more importantly, is there a way that I can help? And he was like, yeah, I'm an engineer, I'm a coder, I will build this thing out, but I think you and I can make a great team. Do you want to do this together? And I was like, yeah, I am having such a ball of a time in consulting. I'm genuinely enjoying myself, learning so much, making money for the first time in my life. I think it would be foolish for me to give all of that away and just join you immediately. But if you're okay, and I really hope you're okay, whatever time is left out of consulting, let me just devote it with you on Second Shadi and just see where it goes. And he was very gracious about it, like, sure, let's make that happen. So for the next 1.5 years, I had a day job as a consultant, and during night time, I was a Batman trying to get people married again. And it was awesome. It got to a certain size and scale where now it warranted my full time. So at that point of time, I decided to quit my consulting job, take almost 80% pay cut, down to the bare minimum financial amount that I needed to survive, and join secondshadi.com. And you can imagine how that conversation went with my parents. They're like, तुम्हारा सच में दिमाग खराब हो चुका है. Why do you keep inflicting this pain on yourself every 4 to 5 years? Like तुम्हारी खुद की भी शादी नहीं हुई है. You have no idea what marriage is all about. You're going to leave this prestigious consulting job to get people married again. How does this make sense? And I was like, it makes sense to me because I think I can always go back to the world that I've come from. I'm leaving it on a high. It's not that I've been fired or anything. But I don't know if this opportunity in front of me is ever going to come back again or not. And I don't want to say no to it. So I'm glad I didn't listen to my parents again. I'm making them sound like they're really bad people. They're very nice people. They just tend to make emotional decisions. Or, you know what, actually the truth is, my decisions worked out for me, so I'm just in some way digging on them. And it was a next 1.5 years of a wonderful journey that I had no idea about. This was my first experience with entrepreneurship. My first true blue in absolute daylight experience. We built out Second Shadi, we built out several other websites. The big one of that became Gaadi.com, still continues to run. It very quickly became one of India's largest car classified websites. And we got an opportunity very early on and very luckily to sell Gaadi.com to a large internet company, make a little bit of money, and there were 3 founders, 3 of us went our ways. And I was looking for the next thing to do, and I come across this rather young company called Groupon. And Groupon had just started in Chicago in the US in 2008. It was growing like wildfire all across the world. And they were looking for people to start the country offices, India being one of them. So I got in touch with them. They liked me, I liked them. And the next thing I know, I got the opportunity to start the Groupon India business for Groupon in 2011. Did that for a couple of years. Then got the bigger mandate of managing Groupon APAC for a couple of years more. Did that for a couple of years. Was fascinated by how horrible I was as a leader. I just did not know how to manage somebody else whose market, culture, working environment, working ethos, I just did not understand. So I learned the hard way of what it is to lead a team that you cannot directly influence, nor should you even try to. And in 2015, it was time for that 4 to 5 year itch happening in my life again. And what was very evident was Groupon had its own problems to take care of in US and Europe, which were meaningfully large problems. So their attention was devoted towards that. But I was living the India opportunity every single day, and I felt that that was a massive opportunity we were sitting on, and every single day we weren't doing something about it was a day we were letting go off. So I decided to ask for a very, I don't even know what the adjective is, let's call it crazy thing. And I went to Groupon Global and I said, hey, your hands are tied with US and Europe, that's where you should focus. I'm living the India opportunity, I believe in it, you can't do much about it. So why don't I buy the Groupon India business from you and make it independent? And they're like, sorry, what are you talking about? You're 100% subsidiary of a publicly listed company listed in the US. This thing has never happened before. And I was like, well, that's not the reason it can't happen or shouldn't happen. Here's the reason why I think it should happen. And it took about 9 months of convincing. And I was able to convince them, and we finally bought out the Groupon India business from Groupon, made that into an independent entity that became Nearby.com, raised money from Sequoia Capital, and changed everything from scratch. The brand name, the tech stack, the business model, everything along with that. 2017, Paytm came along. They liked the business, so they made an investment in the business, because of which we became a Paytm company. And then 2019, after 4 years of starting Nearby, and frankly taking everything that we had to offer, we became profitable. And it felt like a moment in time for me, because by that time I'd spent about 8-9 years in the industry, had built a team that I was absolutely proud of, a culture that I genuinely felt proud of, and it just felt like the right time to move on, personally for me. So at the end of 2019, I decided to step down as the CEO of Nearby, pass the mantle on to my co-founders, and decided to take a 3-month break, figuring out what I wanted to do in life. I am on the 23rd month of the 3-month break. Still trying to figure out what I want to do in life. But I think I'm getting closer. The reason why I share this story, particularly for founders here, or for people who wish to start up, or for frankly anyone in life, is that it has a very important lesson that I learned, and I'm glad that I learned it without design. It wasn't that I set out to learn this lesson, but I'm so glad that I got to experience it early in my life. We're always told that to win in life, you have to have one thing, and that is a plan. You got to have a plan. If you don't have a plan, you're not going to succeed in life. You have to have a plan. And I had a plan for my life. I had a plan for my life which is as good as a plan can ever get. I know for a fact I had the best plan in my entire school, perhaps in my entire city, for all you could care, because I was at a very early age super clear about what I wanted to do, how I'm going to get there, very aware of my capabilities to get there, executing upon it, doing well on it. Everything that you would call as part of a great plan was part of my plan. And yet, what happened? Life punched me hard in my face, laughed at me, mocked me, said, oh, you think you have a plan? I have a plan for you. And I want to see how you react to that plan. So when I came back from the US, dropping out of my PhD, I had 2 choices. Choice 1 was what the world was telling me. Oh, plan A didn't work. Plan B. Plan B didn't work, plan C. Plan C didn't work, plan D. But always have a plan, gotta have a plan. But I didn't have a basis for a plan. My best ever plan had just gotten destroyed in front of my eyes. What would be the foundation or the basis for me to come up with another plan? Nothing. It would just be some random figment of imagination, some random desire converted into a goal or a target. There was no sound basis for me to come up with another plan. So almost out of desperation, my second question or choice was, how does one live life without a plan? Because that's the only way that I can. I don't have a plan, but I still have to live life. How do I manage that? And that became my overarching question when I went to ISB. How do I live life without a goal, without a target, without a plan? And I think I found that answer, which is what I have been doing for the last 17 odd years. And it comprises three things, which is what I call the founder mindset. Entrepreneurship is not a profession, it's a state of mind. I was asked right before, of all the identities that you have, entrepreneur, content creator, author, blah, 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 which is the one that you resonate most with? And I'm like, I am an entrepreneur, irrespective of what I'm doing. I could be washing utensils, I could be running a startup, I could be meditating in the mountains. I will think and behave like an entrepreneur. I don't need to own a company to be one. I don't need to start a company to be one. It's how I think and behave and conduct myself that defines whether I'm an entrepreneur or not. And that's how you think about it. When we think of founders, we think of, oh, Mark Zuckerberg, Vijay Shekhar Sharma, Sachin Bansal. But is Satya Nadella an entrepreneur? I would argue, yes, perhaps better than most entrepreneurs out there. But did he start the company that he's running right now? No. Does he own any major share in that company? No. Does he have anything to do with the first 20, 25 years of its existence? No. But what defines such individuals is the way that they think, the way that they operate. And that is the founder mindset. Three things. Number one, go back to the day you joined college. Or go back to any such gathering. You are amongst a gathering right now. Very rich, diverse talent from across the country. And the first thing we do when we are in such a diverse audience is to look for people who are like us. And that's what I saw at ISB as well. The first week itself, there were groups that were formed. Engineers with engineers, chemical with chemical, mechanical with mechanical, Delhi with Delhi, Malviya Nagar with Malviya Nagar, South Bombay with South Bombay because there's no other Bombay for them, lawyers with lawyers, dancers with dancers, musicians with musicians. It was just crazy that everyone wanted to feel like they belonged. And they were hunting ferociously for people that they could resonate with, find comfort in. And that is exactly the opposite of what an entrepreneur's mindset is. They crave for individuals who think differently from them because that's when they get to know something about the world that they did. Spend time with people who know nothing about you. Spend time with people who are very different from you. That is when you see the world in a different light. If you're just spending time with people who are like you just are getting to hear things that you already know of. It's just a belief system that is being amplified. You are right. You are absolutely. It's what happens with us on social media. Every day you open up Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. You don't get to see things that challenge your point of view. You only get to see things that you already believe in. And there is this endorsement. You are right. Everyone else is wrong. You are right. You know that thing that you thought about in that last evening? And you thought that has it happened or not? It happened. You are right. Everybody else is against you. And it makes you feel powerful. But what it does is, it just makes you a bigger version of who you are. Whatever your ego is, whatever your worldview is, whatever your belief system is, it just amplifies that. It doesn't make you a better version of who you are. So spend time with people who are nothing like you. Like literally when you walked into this conference room and you looked around the room, there were these 2 or 3 people you looked at and you're like, nahi. Inke saath hang out nahi ho payega. They are the ones that you have to hang out with. Because they see the world differently from how you see it. They have approached the world so differently from how you have. When I go to even the best business schools in the country, first, usually the gender ratio is just appalling. So it's like, okay, that's one side of diversity that's not being taken care of. And then I was like, okay, how many non-engineers in here? और फिर बेचारा एक थका मरा सा हाथ उठेगा. Like no fault of that individual. I was like, well, that's another side of diversity gone as well. And then people will be like, no, but we have chemical, and then we have computer science, and then we have biomedical. I was like, well, that's not diversity. As an engineer, as a science student, you're taught that the world is 0 and 1, bits and bytes, black and white. The machine is either working or not working. It's not like, theek hai. There's nothing like that. But then when you go to the social sciences, the world is never 0 or 1. It's a continuum. Everything is a shade of grey. Imagine how do they look at the world and how it would be so different from how an engineer would look at the world. Why wouldn't you spend time with that individual? So that's the first thing. Number 2, the world is a classic trap. Like this institution is a trap. Every brilliant organization out there is a trap. And here's how the trap works. The trap will drug you into believing that your success is because you have worked hard for it. It will make you stand in front of the mirror after every promotion, every acknowledgement, every high point in your life, and you will tap yourself on the back. You'll be like, I deserve this. I've worked hard in my life, I deserve this. But that's a lie. It's a blatant lie. None of us in this room, and I'm not abstracting myself from it, none of us in this room deserve to be where we are. We're just plain lucky. We were born in a family that took care of us, that gave us food, shelter, and upbringing, values, education, whatnot, because of which we sit on opportunities that we take for granted, and millions of people outside of this fancy campus will never get to see even for a second of their lives. They work far harder than we all do, and a lot of them are far smarter than we can ever imagine them to be. But we drug ourselves into believing, oh my God, I deserve this. And the minute you feel that way, you get entitled. And entitlement is game over. Because that's when you start complaining. Complaining about random shit. Complaining about things that you have no business complaining about. I would go into companies, I would go into the best institutions that this country and the world has to offer, and people will be complaining perpetually. Ola Uber nahi aa rahi hai, Zomato Swiggy late ho chuka hai, Netflix pe wo release nahi hua hai, internet itna slow kyun hai, AC itna thanda kyun hai, ye seat itni kharab kyun hai, professors itne boring kyun hai, assignments itni zyada kyun hai, gym mein ek treadmill kyun nahi mujhe mil rahi hai jab main bhagna chahta hu. It's insane how many things we end up complaining about on a daily basis. Just go back to the last 24 hours. Make a list of every single small thing that you complain about. And you're like, what am I doing? What am I doing with my life? The entrepreneur is never entitled. The entrepreneur believes that everything that is happening to them is like, oh my God, is this really happening to me? Like, am I really getting this done in my life? I'm actually releasing something that customers love. I'm actually leading a team of completely completely asymmetrical individuals, very heterogeneous in their outlook, but all aligned towards a certain goal. They all think of me as a leader, somebody who knows all the answers when I know that I don't. My God, this is a blessing. It's an opportunity. I just hope that I can fit into those shoes. And they're constantly on the run. They are on the run. And most employees, and I use that word not as an abuse, but as an opposite to what the entrepreneurial mindset is. All the employees are just waiting. हमारे मैनेजर आएंगे और हमें बताएंगे कि हमें आज क्या करना है, और फिर हम करेंगे, और फिर वो ये बताएंगे कि हमने कितना अच्छा किया, और उसकी गलती है मैं उनसे पहले कपड़े से मांगूंगा, और वो ना बोलेंगे, लेकिन मैं फिर नहीं होता, फिर वो किसी पॉइंट पे जाके आधे आधे में सेटल हो जाएंगे, फिर मैं एक नई जॉब की वेट करूंगा, क्योंकि बहुत सारे हेडहंटर्स मुझे कॉल करेंगे, और फिर मैं एक दिन नौकरी छोड़ दूंगा. That's the mindset. And while you laugh at it, this is exactly the kind of people that you run into almost every day. They don't lay this out because they haven't thought all of this through, but in their head, that's their plan. It's a plan of entitlement. It's a plan of just sitting on the chair and just waiting for the world to happen to them. The manager will respond, the company will respond, their colleagues will respond, their friends will respond, their partners will respond, their parents will respond, and all they have to do is just sit on their laurels because they have worked so hard in their life. Don't get entitled. And last, number 3, everything around us, every product, every service is designed for one thing and one thing alone in today's world, to make our lives comfortable. That's it. That's the only purpose. You want a book? Click. You want clothes? Click. Cab? Click. Latest movies? Click. Love? Swipe right. Anything that you need at the speed of thought, available to you at your doorstep. So it tricks you into believing that the purpose of life is to make life comfortable. When ironically, the ones that you would look up to, the ones that you would want to be, the ones that inspire you are on a daily basis picking up the path of maximum resistance. They are not picking up the easy path, my friend. They are consciously, intensely aware that the path they are choosing is a hard one, where the probability of success is not very high, and yet they would choose it because if they win, it will change their orbit forever. Forever. And they are willing to play those odds. They don't go and seek out the comfortable path. They consciously choose the path where they're challenged, where their fears are challenged. And I see this often in business schools more often, where students are constantly optimizing for their comfort. वो assignment आएगी, 1/3 तुम करोगे, 1/3 मैं, 1/3 वो, नाम लिख देंगे, काम हो जाएगा, 15 मिनट ज़्यादा सोने को मिलेगा. You would not face your fears. And I often tell you, here's the best thing about college, education, or an institution such as this. Nothing that you do here is ever going to screw up your life. Except if it's illegal, but nothing is going to screw up your life. And yet you wouldn't do it. You scared of public speaking and yet you wouldn't come up and address an audience. Who are you scared of? All of them laughing at you? All of them who are already scared of doing the job that you are doing? Laughing at you for doing it? Is that what you're scared of? How is it going to impact? Even if they end up laughing. You are scared of approaching strangers for a favor, introducing yourself. You are scared of sending cold emails. You are scared of networking with your alumni. You're scared of reaching out to potential recruiters. And yet you wouldn't do it. Why? When else do you think you will have the opportunity to make a mistake, fail, and not bear the impact of that? Never ever again. Never ever again. And yet you wouldn't do it. As an entrepreneur, you are drugged into believing that the only way to change an orbit is to make uncomfortable choices. Because everyone else around you is constantly making a comfortable choice. And if you end up making the same choices as everyone else, you are going to end up where everyone else is. That's a law of nature. You can't destroy that, change that, or just align it to your convenience. So when you combine these 3 things, spending time with people who are nothing like you so that you broaden your perspective, do it in a manner that you never feel entitled, and never get comfortable, you have what I believe is the perfect mix for an entrepreneur. And it frankly doesn't matter whether you have a startup or not. Frankly, it doesn't matter whether you'll ever intend to have one or not. What matters is the way that you think. Because I guarantee you here, as a living example of someone who's done that, if you live with this mindset, it is inevitable that you will be running a company at some point of time. Because you will take a direction which will be so dramatically different from everyone else that you will find yourself one day so alone and yet so comfortable in your own company that you'll be like, you know what? I'm now going to charter my own path. And that will be by my design. That is when you would be an entrepreneur theoretically, while you have always been an entrepreneur so far. I'll stop. Thank you so much, and all the best for everything. I've gone beyond my schedule, so it's 1:36, and I have time for Q&A for 10 minutes. So 1:45, tak, if you can do a Q&A, that'll work. So please. Any questions at all? Anything? I see a bunch already. I think we're done with the 10 minutes. Please, go ahead, sir. And then after that, you, and then you. The white gentleman, the one in the white t-shirt. I'll come to you, don't worry.
Hello. Good afternoon. Thank you for enriching us with your knowledge.
Thank you.
I'm the founder of Edible.com, coming down from a marketing sales and marketing background, not from a tech background. We are building something similar to Groupon as being a classified. So we are into classified as well as a CPL model of a business. So what is the future? What are the problems that you see in the near future that these sort of business will face?
That's a very broad question. Do you have something which is a problem that you have right now that I can comment on? Or something like, are you just preparing for the future through this question, or like what's the intent of the question?
We are building education search platform.
Okay.
Yeah, we are connecting student to education service providers.
Okay.
So currently we do have a listing of around 10,000 plus professional to coaching institutes.
Sure.
Coming down the higher education institutes with 45,000 within this month. So in the near future, definitely going across the globe. So learners from across the globe can connect to their requirement as per their education requirement of learning. So it's all depending upon the CPL, or you can say classified model of a business if we talk about a revenue system structure. So the Groupon or the nearby has also been into probably the similar sort of a structure in the revenue model. So what are the problems that you face so that we can overcome at an early stage?
Okay. Thank you. I'll give you one specific thing that you need to watch out for, please have a seat, which is education is usually not a decision that can be put out for the future, particularly if it's bachelor's and master's. Maybe an international one could be a different one, which means every student that's coming to you and filling up a potential lead for the thousands of colleges that you have, they are not going to stop at just submitting that form at your end. They're going to fill up a form at every possible destination that there is, because they have to go to college. And that means your lead is not exclusive by definition. Now you can instantly imagine how that is a problem. Because if your lead is not exclusive and you're passing that on to a college to convert or a professional institute to convert, they're going to get that same lead from all your competitors. And that means this is not a sustainable business model by definition. And the reason I'm saying this is because I've run an education startup 12 years back, exactly ran into the same problem, and this is coming in from just personal experience. A lead-based model will only grow if there is exclusivity of that lead, which means you're offering something to that student that the student would not get anywhere else, to the extent that they would not fill up that lead form anywhere else. But if you're just capturing one and believing that, अरे वाह, मेरे पास 5,000 स्टूडेंट्स की लिस्ट आ गई है जो इस MBA प्रोग्राम के लिए जाना चाहते हैं, उन 5,000 स्टूडेंट्स ने हर एक दूसरी वेबसाइट पे भी फॉर्म भरा है, including the one on the college itself. So there is no reason why you will ever get a premium. It will be a race to the bottom when it comes to margin. Whatever money you would spend on generating that lead, you will never recover that money. So your cost of acquisition for that lead will become greater than the revenue made per lead. And that's it. The business begins to decay. So you have to think about what is it that will be the unique offering that you get. Yeah? Sorry, I can't take one follow-up question. I would love to, but... Oh, I can't take another question as well because there are a bunch of people.
So, in terms of the exclusive...
Hello? Yeah.
Hi, Ankur. Hope you're doing well. So, call it Polaroid perspective, but everything that we do, be it business or a conversation, is a transaction. And sellability is very important there. How do you approach incorporating sellability into
Sellability?
sellability?
Scalability? Sellability. Oh, sellability. How do you... Oh.
What's the philosophy behind it?
No,
process?
Okay, it's a very broad question. How do you incorporate sellability into a conversation / a transaction?
Yeah.
Okay. Here's what I can tell you, and this will not be an answer that you wanted to hear. If you're trying to sell somebody anything at all, you will come across as a salesperson. Zero doubt about that. And the best salespeople that I have met are never trying to sell you anything. Ever. The sale happens as an outcome. What do I mean by that? They are intently focused on trying to understand what is it that the other side wants. You're always two options as a customer. For example, let's say you are a candidate looking for a placement. And in your head it's like, I need a job, I need a job, I need a job. So you'll be like, oh, I have done my undergrad from here, these are the marks that I scored, I killed it, I was topper in my school, blah, blah, blah. Then I went to this undergrad, and I then went to this postgrad, top of my class, everybody loves me, you will love me too, hire me. This is you trying to sell yourself. It most likely will not work. Not for any fault of yours, it's just because they hear such sales pitches every waking second of their life. Instead, you now ask, what is it that they are looking for? What is it that they want? Because every company or every individual that you're having a conversation with is looking for something. And if you were to look at yourself as a solution to their problem, as against the offering that you force upon them, it dramatically changes the conversation. That's what's worked for me. So don't try and sell. The minute you try and sell, your respect will go down because they'll be like, "Ek aur aa gaya." But the minute you're trying to understand where it's coming from with no intent of eventually selling, then you'll be surprised at how often you're able to close that conversation, whether it's a direct sale or just even forming a relationship. Like I often say, you make your best friends when you don't set out to make friends. And that's happened to all of us. It's not like, oh, those chahiye, aha! You just encounter people, absolutely curiously get to know them, and then realize, oh my God, we're now best friends. So it always happens that you would get there. Sir, next.
Hi, Ankur.
Oh, okay. Sorry, someone's taken over. Yes.
Thank you for such an inspiring session.
Thank
and
you.
I loved your podcast with Shantanu and Bobby Shafez.
Thank you so much, man.
So my question is, I'm a student at IIM Lucknow, and coming from a middle class family, I wonder that how an entrepreneur manages his stress and financial commitments on this risky pathway.
Okay. You basically need financial and professional and life advice. Bata do bas. So, look, risk is a fascinating topic for me. And I can go on and on, so I wouldn't go there. But you have to recognize, the minute you ask yourself, how does one manage the risk, you've already answered the question. Because that risk does not have an independent measuring scale, right? There is no independent measuring scale of risk. So you would say jumping off a cliff is risky. Somebody else may have that as their profession. You would say picking up an entrepreneurial stint after college is risky. Somebody does that for a living and they can't see any other way. Your risk is a function of where you are in your life at that point of time. And please be aware and appreciative of that. Because there is a reason why that is the case. If you come and you've labeled yourself that way, if you come from a middle class family, that clearly means there are things that you experience where you know the importance of money and not having it. You don't want to go through that shit again. You definitely don't want your family to go through that shit again. And it's totally okay. And you shouldn't feel guilty even for a single second for you to then adopt a path of stability and say, you know what, I need a job. And I need a job for X years so that I get that sense of stability, I build that corpus, I know my family is secure, I have my health insurance, I have my life insurance, I have my emergency fund, I have all of that, hashtag financial advice. And now I don't need to ask this question to Ankur anymore. Because after 5 years, I feel confident to start up. Because I have everything that doesn't make it any riskier than what it used to feel like. So if you're asking a question, is this risky and how should I deal with it? It most likely means that it is a life living thing in your head. So don't dismiss that. And just be comfortable with whenever it comes. हर एक इंसान को entrepreneur बनने जरूरी नहीं है, हाँ? Like fun fact of life. Not everybody has to become an entrepreneur. In fact, the world will crumble if everybody was starting their own businesses. So there's a reason why I would come here knowing that less than 2% of you are ever going to do something about your startups. And less than 10% of that are ever going to be successful at that for no fault of yours. But that's the design. So don't feel any embarrassment, definitely not any FOMO or any shame कि यार सब लोग startup कर रहे हैं और मैं यहाँ job कर रहा हूँ. There's no shame in a 9 to 5. Never is.
We'll take one more question.
Yes.
Sir,
Just one.
sir, as an 18-year-old, if I had a SaaS product and if I want to sell it to B2B, would actually people take me seriously? Like, if I have everything in check with my SaaS product, so would people take it seriously, or should I keep something in check as well?
Okay, that's a great question. May I ask you a few counter questions?
Yes, sir.
Do you shop online?
Yes, sir.
Okay, where do you buy your books from?
Depends. Generally, Amazon.
Okay, great. सोच के बोला था shit मैं तो PDF डाउनलोड करता हूँ. Keep up. Sorry, wrong question. I didn't want to put you in the spot. Okay, where do you listen your music to?
Spotify.
Great. Where do you play games?
I don't play.
Okay, great. Where do you watch videos for entertainment?
YouTube.
All right.
Netflix.
Which is a site that you buy clothes from, if at all?
Amazon, Myntra.
Okay, great. Do you have any idea of where the founders of these companies came from? How much money do they raise? What is their age when they started? How is the financial strength of that company? What has been the revenue growth for the last 1 year? How big is the engineering team? How big is the marketing team? Do you care about these things?
No, sir.
Wonderful. So you've answered this. Nobody cares about you.
Yeah.
Sorry to break your heart. Nobody cares about you. They only care about what you do.
Yeah.
So if you're building a SaaS product for a company, they will look at that product for what the product does for them. उन्हें घंटा फर्क पड़ता है कि तुम 18 के हो या 80 के हो. They genuinely couldn't care less. They're like, does the product do what we want it to do? Awesome. Does it come at the price that we want? Awesome. Does it come with our trust in it so that we know it works? Awesome. And that's all that you have to optimize for. But here's the trick, and this is a fascinating question because all of us suffer from that. We dismiss ourselves before we allow the world to dismiss us. And that's just the reality of life. So in his head, when he enters a meeting, irrespective of how do we bring in sellability into the conversation, how do we become this, how do we like, in his head he's like, shit, मैं सिर्फ 18 का हूँ, वो मुझे देखते ही मुझे बाहर निकाल देंगे. And it doesn't matter कि मेरा product बहुत बढ़िया है, मेरा demo बहुत अच्छा है, मेरा sales team बहुत अच्छी है, मेरी services team बहुत अच्छी है, it just doesn't matter. He has dismissed himself because he's allowed anybody else to even dismiss him. And that's just the way it is. So the only gift that I can give you, my friend, at the age of 18, and I love that question, is please allow the world to dismiss you before you dismiss yourself. Because they are as it is going to dismiss you. And when that happens, identify the reasons they went through that, improve on that, and then believe you are ready to face them. But if you dismiss yourself, मुझसे नहीं हो पाएगा, मैं तो 18 हूँ, मैं तो ये हूँ, मैं हूँ, वो हूँ, and that's it. It shows on your face instantly. They will just tell you, thank you for coming. Thank you. Yeah? Cool.
Thank you.
All right. I think we're done. Sorry for taking longer than I wanted to. Thank you so much for having me.